What we're going to be taking a look at today here, guys, is just a simple masking technique which will give your text a little more spatial depth inside of the video itself. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and import a video just by hitting Command-I or Control-I on a Windows computer. And we'll drag the footage down into the new composition button inside of the project window itself. Let's go ahead and get rid of this black space here just by dragging the work area to the first frame of the video and going Composition, Trim Comp to Work Area. And we'll zoom out just so we can go ahead and see the full video inside of the window. What we're going to do first is just go ahead and create a new text layer just by going Layer, New Text, and we'll call this Masking 101. And just to give it a little more flair, we'll actually change the weight of masking to something a little bit heavier. Semi-bold should work. There we go. What we're looking to do is basically just to align the text with the subject's torso. So we'll go ahead and just scrub forward a few frames here. And using the arrow keys on the keyboard, we'll just fine-tune it to make sure it is in the range of his torso. And once we get it settled, we'll go ahead and hit Command-R to pull up some rulers. Clicking and dragging down in the video window will give us these blue guidelines. These guidelines will come in use in just a second here. What we're going to do now that we have everything positioned is we're going to go ahead and just scoot back a few frames here to just before he crosses over the text, and we'll toggle the visibility of the text itself just by clicking this eyeball in the left corner. What we can do now that we have everything situated is we can go ahead and draw our mask out using the pen tool. The scroll ball on the mouse allows us to zoom in and out just to make things a little bit easier to see. Our first point of the mask should be slightly above the guidelines we laid out for the text, just so we can assure that the mask will cover the text completely as it moves across the screen. We'll continue to move down the outline of the body, just making points. That way when the mask does actually move across the screen, we can go ahead and bend it with the outline of the body. And we'll just continue up. And once we get to the top above the guidelines again, we'll go ahead and close out the mask just by clicking on our first point again. By default, our mask is set to add, which is why our text disappeared completely. A quick fix for that is just go ahead and change it in the drop-down menu to subtract. And from this point on, all we'll be doing is animating the mask path by clicking the stopwatch right there to give us our first keyframe. What I always like to do is skip to the last keyframe. That way when After Effects automatically interpolates in between those two keyframes, it'll save me a little bit of work from having to kind of readjust the mask every time. It's not always guaranteed that it will match up completely, but it will save you from having to do some very coarse, very large moves of the mask itself. Now that we have the mask position on the other side, all we have to do is basically fine-tune it by clicking and dragging, just matching it up with the body outline once again. If you would by chance need to add another point in there to, accommodate for a bend, some sort of organic shape, what you would do is basically just hover in between 2 points over the line, and you'll see the mouse pop up with a plus sign right next to it, and that'll allow you to add another point. I'm going to continue on and just do one more keyframe on the back side, just to get that subject completely out of the way of the text there. It wasn't, unfortunately, on the first keyframe we set. And from this point on, you'll see now that we drag the mask path across the screen, it doesn't match up to the body completely, but like I said, it will only require some fine-tuning and set up some coarse movements. Now that we have the groundwork laid out, what we can do is we can go ahead and toggle the visibility of the text once more. That way it's a little bit easier to match up the edges of the mask to the body outline itself. Two things which will be quite helpful are the scroll ball on the mouse, which again allows you to zoom in and out, and then the other being holding down the space bar while dragging the mouse, which allows you to move the video inside of the composition window. This prevents you from going frame by frame and having to adjust your view as the subject moves across the screen. Now with the mask path laid, what we can do is go frame by frame individually and adjust the mask to match up with the body outline. Unfortunately, this is where things start to get a little tedious, so instead of making you watch the whole thing, I'm just going to speed it up and include some elevator music while we watch. Now that we've animated each keyframe of the mask path individually, what we can do is we can toggle the text back on and go ahead and give it a preview. Now that we've got it all done, all there's left to do is export it out, and now you have a basic understanding of masking. So let's see what you can create.